The lights of New York were slowly beginning to fade again. The portal had closed, Voldemort was gone, but the duo, while taking a deep breath, knew that this was just the beginning. Peter lowered his mask and looked at Harry. Did we really do it? The portal closed, but do you think this guy Voldemort won't come back? Harry tucked his wand into his pocket and looked up at the sky. There was still a trace of worry in his eyes. Voldemort will find a way to come back somehow. His presence hasn't completely vanished. We still don't know how he got to this world. Peter shrugged and glanced around. Well then, it seems there's nothing we can do right now. Maybe we should rest a bit, huh? He said, narrowing his eyes and smiling. So, I just had a magical adventure in the streets of New York. For the first time in my life, I think this could be the craziest experience the city has to offer. Harry tried to smile, but his mind was still filled with complex thoughts. He was in the middle of an adventure woven with the dangers of the wizarding world, far from Hogwarts. It would be nice to rest, Harry said wearily, but we might need to go after Voldemort. This world may have become a hunting ground for him. Just then, the silence of the city was suddenly shattered. Peter's spider sense kicked in. He squinted and immediately stood up. Something's wrong. Something's coming. Harry looked around. What do you mean? Peter spotted a shadow between the buildings. I don't know what it is, but it's not good. He quickly shot a web to the top of a building and jumped up. Stay here, he yelled to Harry. Harry immediately reacted. I'm coming too, he said, drawing his wand. As Peter jumped up, Harry levitated with a spell. Right behind him, the duo raced through the tall buildings of the city, trying to understand what the shadow that broke the silence was. At that moment, a massive metallic monster jumped down from a rooftop. Peter shouted, No! This can't be! Is it a robot? A giant robot, glowing red lights from its eyes, lunged toward them. Harry asked, bewildered, Is it a robot or magic? Peter moved quickly and dodged the robot's attack. We don't have time to figure this out, he said, but it's probably one of New York's welcoming gifts. He shot a web at the robot's body, but it easily tore through the web. Oh, this is not good, Peter added, frowning. Harry quickly pointed his wand at the robot. Expelliarmus, he shouted, but the robot didn't even respond to the spell. Harry pulled back in shock. Magic doesn't work, Peter said. I think we have to take this thing down the old-fashioned way, and quickly leaped onto the robot, throwing punches. But the metal body didn't even budge. This thing's armor is ridiculously strong. The robot suddenly began firing laser beams. Peter pulled back quickly, but the beams narrowly missed Harry. He rolled on the ground to escape just in time. Do you have a plan? Harry asked, gripping his wand tightly. Peter paused for a moment, then a thought struck him. Yeah, but it's going to be a bit crazy. Harry grinned. Have we experienced anything less than crazy tonight? Peter looked up quickly. Then follow me, he said, using his webs to climb to the top of a tall building. Harry quickly rose with a magical broom, right behind Peter. The robot began to chase them. When Peter reached the highest point, he turned quickly to Harry. There's only one spot that can take this thing down. Use its own energy against it. Harry asked, So what do I need to do? Peter thought for a moment. I'll draw the robot's attention to myself. You need to interfere with its energy source with a spell. If you can pull it off, this thing will collapse. Harry tightened his grip on his wand. Okay, he said, but be careful, Peter. Peter yelled, I will, and leaped in front of the robot. The robot locked onto him with its red eyes and charged forward. Peter began swinging from rooftop to rooftop, but with each leap, the robot was hot on his tail. Harry watched them from above. When he spotted the glowing energy source in the robot's body, he aimed his wand. Stupefy, Harry shouted, and the spell hit the robot squarely in the body. For a moment, the robot's movements slowed down. Peter seized the opportunity and dashed behind the robot, opening the panel that absorbed its energy. Just then, Harry launched one final spell. Reducto, Harry cried, targeting the robot's energy panel. The energy source exploded, and the robot crashed to the ground with a loud thud. As everything calmed down, Peter and Harry exchanged glances. Peter smiled. There it is. Superheroism and magic. My new favorite combo. Harry took a deep, satisfied breath. I guess this job is going to continue for a while. Peter smiled and extended his hand to Harry. Buddy, this is just the beginning. Peace had returned to New York, but this tranquility was merely the calm before the storm. Harry and Peter had once again saved the city, they had defeated the robot, and the streets were slowly returning to normal. The duo felt tired but proud. They had survived the danger, or so they thought. I think that's it, Peter said, pulling off his mask. Robots, portals. Can't we just fight a regular villain for a day? Harry smiled faintly, but there was unease on his face. Something is wrong, he said slowly. This feeling, it doesn't feel like magic, but I can sense a threat. At that moment, the sky darkened again. Another light appeared over New York, but this time it wasn't like a portal. It was more like a power seeping from the darkness, approaching stealthily. And in the center of this power, a figure emerged. Loki, the god of Asgard, floated in the air with a sly smile. His golden helmet and dark green cloak reigned over New York's chaotic skyline. Have you come to congratulate each other? How touching, Loki said, his voice dripping with mockery. But the game is just beginning, children. Harry and Peter tensed at the same time. Peter quickly donned his mask, while Harry tightened his grip on his wand. Loki, Harry whispered. He had heard the name many times, but seeing a real god in front of him was entirely different. Peter took a different approach to the situation. Are you serious? How many times are we going to run into someone like this? He said mockingly. Can't we just battle a regular thief for once? Loki laughed at Peter's jabs with disdain. You mortals, he said, slightly opening his hands. You all take yourselves so seriously, but you don't understand, do you? I'm just here to have some fun. All this chaos is just the beginning. Loki's hands began to glow, and the surrounding buildings shook violently. The ground cracked, and massive roots emerged from underground, wrapping around the buildings. Harry muttered, "This is a huge spell." Fear was evident in his eyes. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Peter jumped into action. So, my wizard friend, do you have a plan? Because I feel like we can't handle this guy alone. As Harry looked at the chaos Loki was creating, he took a deep breath. The magical power is overwhelming, Peter. This isn't a normal duel, but maybe we can outsmart him. Smartness? Okay, that's my job, Peter said, quickly throwing a web and leaping to the top of a building. He threw a few more webs to distract Loki, but Loki just laughed at the attempts. Child's play, Spider-Man. Harry was trying to analyze Loki. He had a plan, but needed Peter to buy time. Loki's power lies in creating chaos, he thought. But if I try to control the chaos with him, maybe it'll throw him off balance. As Peter dove toward Loki, he shouted, "Hey, you! Where'd you get that helmet? It looks pretty old-fashioned." Loki turned to Peter instantly and captured him mid-air with a spell. Old-fashioned? Oh, mortals, he said with a condescending tone. But this created the moment Harry needed. Harry quickly raised his wand and shouted, "Incarcerus!" Massive ropes suddenly wrapped around Loki. For a moment, Loki hesitated. It was an unexpected move. However, Loki was not someone who would give up so easily. A light suddenly sparked in his eyes and he broke free of the ropes. Good attempt, kids, but I'm a god. You can't defeat me that easily. Loki's magic continued to wreak havoc on everything around. The city was on the brink of chaos once more. But a bright idea struck Harry's mind. "Peter," he shouted, "we need to separate him from his magic. The helmet. His power might be in that." Peter nodded, trying to avoid Loki's spells. "Got it. So how do we do that?" "I'll create a distraction while you focus on that helmet," Harry suggested. "If we can separate him from that item, we might stand a chance." "All right, but hurry," Peter replied, speeding toward Loki. Harry quickly gathered his magical energy and threw a spell at the nearby buildings. "Defendo!" he shouted, sending debris flying toward Loki. While the god was distracted, Peter leaped forward. "Let's see if this is more than just a fashion accessory," he yelled, reaching for Loki's helmet. Loki turned angrily. "No!" he shouted, but it was too late. Peter had managed to grab the helmet, and it began to glow, absorbing the magic flowing from Loki. "I've got it!" Peter yelled triumphantly, but Loki grinned wickedly. "You think you can stop me that easily?" he said. No, my little spider, you have only awakened the chaos within. As Peter held the helmet, the chaos around them intensified. Harry felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. Peter, don't let go, he shouted, but it was too late. The magic began to consume Peter, pulling him into a dark vortex. Harry, help me, Peter cried out in fear. With no time to lose, Harry raised his wand again, focused on Peter and shouted, Expecto Patronum! A brilliant light burst forth, clashing with the darkness, and pushed back the chaos. Loki was taken aback for a moment, but quickly regained his composure. This is your end, Potter. But Harry's determination was unwavering. You won't win, Loki. With one last surge of energy, Harry directed his Patronus toward Peter, freeing him from the chaotic magic. Now, Harry shouted, we have to finish this. The two of them charged at Loki. With their combined strength, they threw everything they had. Harry's magic intertwined with Peter's agility, creating a force that Loki had never seen before. You'll regret this, Loki shouted, trying to fight back. But the duo was relentless. The light enveloped Loki, and for the first time the god seemed to falter. Then came a final spell. Expelliarmus! Harry shouted in unison with Peter's kick. The combination sent Loki flying back, and with a loud explosion, he vanished, leaving behind nothing but the echo of his laughter. The chaos ceased. The buildings slowly returned to normal, and the city was safe once more. Harry and Peter stood there, panting but triumphant. We did it, Peter said, grinning. Did you see that? We took down a god. Harry chuckled. Well, let's not get too comfortable. There's always another threat around the corner. The two heroes shared a moment of triumph, knowing they had each other's backs. But even as they stood in the calm after the storm, they could feel the shadows lurking, waiting for the next challenge. This time they were ready.